Hey everybody, aloha! It's Marilee McKee and I am somewhere in your doTERRA upline. Today we're going to chat a little bit about some negative trash talk that we have in our heads. And there are a million things that make each one of us special and unique and wonderful. And having trash talk in our head is not one of those things because everybody has trash talk in their heads. And it is something that is very debilitating for some people, and it's a really big barrier that when we learn how to get through that, oh, there's my dog Puka. When we learn how to get through that barrier of the negative trash talk in our head, we can do so much better because we feel so much better. So Oprah says, when you feel better, when you know better, you do better. Okay, so I am literally a drama queen. I direct musical theater. So life is better with sound effects. And this exercise is going to be way better with sound effects, especially if you go teach it to a child, because I teach this to children all the time. So it's called Fu Panda. And I actually got the principle behind this from Callie Wilson, who's amazing. And it's called Kick It, Flip It, Power It Up. But because I teach kids all the time, I tried to think of a fun way that would appeal to them. And that's when I came up with Fu Panda. So K is the first letter of Kung, F is the first letter of Fu, and P is the first letter of Panda. So that's how this came to be. And the first one is Kung, kick it out. So many times when we have negative trash talk, we hold it in. We're embarrassed about it. We feel like we don't want to vomit it all over other people, which we should not. We should, but we can't hold it in, or it just keeps on pulling us down. And it gives us this, this idea that we're bad, that we're hiding something. So the first thing is to just go like this, hi-ya! Hoo-ah! And do whatever kind of sound effects you want to, and you know it, you can even whisper that, hi-ya! And you kick it, you kick it out, you own it. You go, wow, I didn't know that was like the 34 millionth time I've heard that particular negative thought, but it is. So kick it out. And write it down if you can. If you have to write it in the sand with your toe, if you have to write it in the air with your finger, if you have to write it on a napkin at a restaurant, wherever it is, get it out of your head and look at it, name it, own it, and go, oh, girlfriend, or oh, boy, dude, whatever. And then you'll have it down somewhere. Okay, the next thing is to listen and see if it says, I am so dumb, or you are so dumb. Okay, there's two different ways, and neither of them are right or wrong. They are all bad, but it's a good process to get out. So if you are wanting to just kind of analyze this, if it says, you are so dumb, that means all it means is information. Good to know, information is good. That the outside forces, people, situations, your past story, something, the media, some sort of stereotypical something, that is teaching you that you are that way, but you have not accepted it yet. Good to know. Okay, this is something that I've heard a lot. I hear it in my head a lot, but I haven't accepted it yet. If you hear, I am so ugly, or I am so stupid, nobody wants to work with me, that is good to know. It's not that it's true. It's not true. It is that you have come to accept it. So that's just good to know. You're like, wow, okay, this is something that I've heard for so long that I have come to accept it. It doesn't come from your true self. It is that you have heard it and it's bombarded you for so long that you've come to accept it about yourself. So good to know. Write it down. Okay, the next part, and the most fun part of that, by the way, is and stop. And some of the little kids you teach, they'll do some kicks and they'll do some like roundhouses or whatever. It's just really super fun. And you can do that too, because we're all kids at heart. So the next thing is to flip it. Flip it means put it exactly the opposite of what it is. Now, it's been really interesting because I teach children and teenagers a lot. And this is what I'll say. Okay, if you heard, I am so fat, or let's use that one. Then flip it to the opposite. So they're like, I am not fat. And they'll kind of always ask it as a question. That is not the opposite. The opposite would be choosing a word that means the exact opposite of whatever it is that you don't want to be thinking. So let's use the stupid one, because a lot of people hear that a lot. Like, I was so stupid. I am so stupid. You are so stupid. That is a very common one. So what are some of the opposite words from stupid? Okay, it would be brilliant, intelligent, fabulous. I don't know. I can't think of them right now because I'm on the spot. But finding those words that mean those beautiful, sparkly, kind of those epic words, that is what you really want to put on for those flip it kind of tags. Okay, now one of the really funny things about this is that your brain immediately is going to go, you're such a liar. You are a hypocrite. Who do you think you are? You are not everything. You're not that kind of a person. Don't lie, don't lie. Okay, well, I'll just tell you, remember what we said, that all those thoughts that you have heard all these years or for however long, they are not true. They're lies that have come at you from outer sources that you either accepted or you still have a barrier against them somehow. So if you are going to accept a lie about yourself, oh my goodness, make it epic, epic. Make it something, give yourself some superhero types of characteristics. So think of the most beautiful word. If you are thinking the fat word, the F word, then what? Lean, strong. I have stamina, gusto. I can go for long periods of time with gusto and cheer. Something like that. Think of words that resonate with you. Okay, so now quick story. Several years ago in my guest bathroom, I had an ant problem. It was mortifying. It was absolutely so embarrassing because these ants came out of nowhere. They would come back out from behind the mirror. They would come up from the pipes of the sink and the tub, through the windowsill. I mean, they were just everywhere, under the rugs, behind the toilet, and I couldn't get rid of them. So I also had stuff in my this beautiful yard here. So I called an exterminator, and he came with his goggles and his tank and his sprayer, and he sprayed the whole exterior. He sprayed the house. He sprayed all the cracks and crevices. He went in the garage and poked his wand down in the secret places where spiders sometimes hide. He did the best thing ever. And then I said, okay, how much do I owe you? And he said the amount, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, by the way, is there anything else? And I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, the ants in the guest bathroom. So he's like, It was really awesome. He got his exterminator brain on. So he went into the bathroom, and I sat at the kitchen table and I was writing out the check, and then he came back out and he goes, okay, you are done. But I have to warn you, and he says this as he's walking out the door, which I was really glad that he said this. He said, before the ants disappear, you are gonna see more ants than you have ever seen before, ever. But don't worry, I put some really strong bait out there, and they're gonna come up and they're gonna swarm, they're gonna take the bait, and then you will never, ever, ever see them again. I am so glad that he told me that, because if he had not, I would have woken up the next morning like I did and gone in the bathroom and there were ants everywhere. And I would have gone online, I would have given him a bad review, I would have called him and I would say, you're a fraud or whatever, and you're such a hypocrite, you said that you were gonna get rid of my ants, you are a liar. But because I knew that was the process, I went with it, and you know what? Those ants disappeared, and to this day, 3 years later, I have not seen an ant in that bathroom. So why am I telling us this story? Because the minute you flip it, just so you know, the minute you hear that negative, and it's a sad commentary on your brain and my brain and on this society, that we are so much more ready to accept and believe negative things about ourselves than positive. Just saying. So we say this, we flip it, we catch that negative thing, we say, we flip it, we write it down, and then we look at that and we go, whoa, and then we flip it and we say, I am powerful beyond measure. Immediately our ants are going to swarm, and you're going to hear, you're such a hypocrite, you're such a lame person, who do you think you are, you can't, all this stuff. But just when you hear that, know It is the process. And how I like to tell my students, get a sticker, and put them on the ceiling. Oh yeah. And celebrate, because this is the path. This is the process. Okay, so after you flip it and you actually say it or write it down, scratch out those negative words and change it to the positive, it's like we're on a number line. Remember when we were in 3rd grade? So you have a number line and you have the 0. So you say a negative thing to yourself, it takes you to -1. So you flip it and it puts you back at 0. And that's better than being in the negatives, but we don't want to be in 0. So now we're gonna panda it or power it up. So I like to go drum roll, or stomp, and then say and then you think of something fabulous. Now remember, if we're gonna accept a lie anyway, let's create some sort of epic characteristics for ourselves. So we go, and the world finds so much value in everything that I do. Okay, when your ants are swarming, it's awesome. Don't worry. Pretend like you're an Avenger and you're like, bam, 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 kicking them off and get rid of them. Okay, now some of you are going to think, wow, Marilee, you are over the top. And I am. It is. It's fun to be over the top, especially when you're working with kids, and we're all kids at heart. So hopefully you remember this. Kick it. Hi-ya! Out. Write it down. Write it in the air. Write it in the sand. Get it out. Don't own it. It's not you. It is not you. Everybody just say, it's not me. It's something that you have accepted or that you're still fighting. Then flip it to the exact opposite, whatever it is, and then power it up. And as you do this, your ants will swarm less and less. I know that's hard to believe at the beginning. So many people are like, I feel worse now than ever. I'm quitting this. I don't want to do this. But the only reason is because our brains are not used to living in positive. We're not used to it. It's hard to accept, because it's really easy to accept that we're dumb and that we can't do it because that's the easy way, or that's what we've been trained to do by some morbid system that we live in. So use Kung Fu Panda. Kick it, flip it, power it up, teach it to somebody, use it, trust the process. I'm Marilee McKee. You got this. Okay, bye.